Okay,
Gerry,
well,
you were so great on that webinar with the Green Party the other night. And
thank
you were
you.
saying, I'm begging everybody to say what you were saying. Like, instead of talking about all the horrible things with nuclear weapons, all the missed opportunities, you went through that whole list. Let
Right,
people know that there are things we could be doing with Russia and China if it's really up to us. And nobody knows
right.
that. They're all getting the scare story, no first
Yeah.
use that.
Well, I saw in the chat that got a lot of positive feedback, including from you. Alice said brilliant, and I'm thinking, well, of course she thinks it's brilliant
I
because
wrote
I
it.
was quoting her. Um,
But you're
I
the
was
first one that ever did that. I'm so happy.
I leaned heavily on the Veterans for Peace Nuclear Posture Review to kind of put the whole war in Ukraine in the context of U.S. nuclear brinksmanship. And I think actually works out really as quite a good analysis, very helpful.
But I really think that if people knew this, we could get more forward motion, instead of just
Mhm.
scaring everybody,
Mhm.
saying, look, they want to negotiate a treaty to ban weapons in space. They want to negotiate a cyber ban.
I'm going to
Russia
put
and
some of this
China
on your
keep
plate. Okay,
begging
watch
us.
this, Harvey. Watch. Okay.
Mhm.
So anyway,
Okay, so it's 6 minutes after the hour, and there's only nine of us here today. We'll probably have a few more joining us, but we got a strong nine. So let's get busy. I'm Dan Shea and I, who's Dan's with us, just recently returned from a Veterans for Peace delegation in Nicaragua, so missed the last meeting. Uh, and but I did watch the recording of the meeting just a little while ago, and Jim did a great job facilitating, and there was just our usual sharing of all kinds of valuable information. So I really appreciated that. Um, so the being in I'll just say a few words about going to Nicaragua, and Dan might want to add in. But basically, um, we visited a country that prioritizes the needs of the most poor and vulnerable people, and it does so in a dramatic way. It's like the third poorest country by some measures in the Western Hemisphere, probably per capita, and yet it provides free education and free health care for everybody, and quality education, quality health care, constantly improving, constantly expanding. So that was very inspiring to us, and especially at a time when our government is going exactly in the opposite direction and doing so blatantly. Um, so doing what they've been doing for years in the to the global south, which is, we'll loan you some money through the IMF if you'll privatize your education and healthcare systems and screw your poor. So Nicaragua's not having that, and therefore they continue to be under attack by the U.S. through lots of negative propaganda, but also an attempted coup, a U.S.-backed coup attempt in 2018, and now sanctions and more sanctions. So, at any rate, Nicaragua's got his act together. We were very inspired, and we're making lots of report backs and writing articles. Our initial report has been published in about a dozen different places, nationally and internationally, in both English and Spanish. We made a really good report at the New York City VFP chapter meeting the other night, and Dan's made a report, I think, to the Seattle VFP, and um, we've got a larger report coming up at the Nicaragua webinar on June 22nd. We'll make sure everybody has that. And we're working on a longer, more detailed report of our trip with lots of photos. And we all came back very energized um, and pleased. And and by the way, we saw no evidence whatsoever that Nicaragua is building a nuclear weapon. As, as a matter of fact, I'm just reminding myself today that Latin America is a nuclear-free zone, one of five major nuclear-free zones in the world, all the way from the U.S.-Mexico border to the tip of South America and including the Caribbean. Um, they're they're absolutely committed to not dealing with nuclear weapons in any way, shape, or form. And that's something we maybe need to acknowledge and celebrate more often. Um, so, at any rate, so that's my little report, what I've been up to. And
Gerry, can I ask you and Dan I guess, a quick question, which will be two words. Daniel Ortega, how's he doing?
I just got that question from a friend of mine with Jewish Voice for Peace, who actually wanted to meet with me, and I had a long conversation over coffee and a bagel, um, and basically, the question is since the color revolution and the coup was attacking Ortega, and that his wife was one of the major problems here. The issue while we were there wasn't about Ortega or his spouse. The issue was, in my estimation, I don't know enough about Ortega and how people feel about him, but we did not find anybody that was saying anything bad about him and or what was going on. What we did, the real measure there is not about Ortega. The real measure is how are the people doing. The real measure was that people were being rise out of poverty, and they admit that poverty is still an issue, but how are they addressing it? Free healthcare, education, all of these various aspects of lifting people up out of poverty, and that's what we saw, and that's what was amazing. And I think that's what people have to learn. You know, every government's going to have opposition, and they want to know why there are certain people within, on the left even that oppose Ortega and were part of the opposition. Well, that's an argument that's going on between, when we're talking with Camila Mejia, his mother's on one side, his father's on the other side, and they were both part of the revolution. So I can't answer the question why people believe one thing over the other. All I can say is what we saw, and I think we need to have people go there and see for themselves what's going on the streets.
well, I'll just say a little bit more about that, and then we'll get into our nuclear abolition agenda here. But so Daniel Ortega was of course, one of the leaders of the um, revolution that ousted the U.S.-backed dictator Somoza. And then he became, I think in 1983, so that was 1979. In 1983, he became the first democratically elected president of Nicaragua. And he led the country through a decade of U.S.-backed Contra war and sanctions. In 1990, um, after a decade of war and sanctions and U.S.-backed candidate in Nicaragua, uh, Ortega lost the election. You could say that Nicaragua voted with a gun at its head, but at the same time, Daniel Ortega and the Sandinistas accepted their electoral loss and stepped down and went into the opposition. They It was the first peaceful transfer of power in the history of Nicaragua. Um, And then the neoliberals came in, a series of corrupt neoliberal governments reversed any progress that the Sandinistas had made, ran the country into the ground, went backwards on literacy, backwards on health, backwards on education. And until 2007, when Daniel Ortega was reelected, and the progress that's been made between 27 and 2025 is just amazing. It's almost like the Chinese Revolution. I mean, it's just really remarkable. It's so obvious on so many fronts, the infrastructure, the healthcare, the education, and more, and so much more. And a really mobilized society and a happy society. And Dan, I was in Nicaragua in 2021 to observe the elections there. The freest and fairest, most well organized and transparent example of an election you could have anywhere. And Ortega won over 70% of the vote. And even today, the opinion polls show that he has over 70% approval rating, which is, pretty remarkable. So the Sandinistas are doing well. Um, uh, Daniel Ortega is an easy target for some, but uh, he's actually much beloved and kind of seen as the father of the Nicaraguan Revolution. And I think, and we were able to meet with the Juventud Sandinista youth groups in several cities, and they have a very mobilized young population that's going to be taking the revolution forward because Daniel Ortega can't be there forever. Peter, you wanted to say something about that?
I'm just amazed at the sophistication of Western propaganda, because after the Contra scandal and all that, I sort of dropped my interest in that whole thing, thinking, okay, good luck to him. Got into other stuff. And last year, I was hearing news about Ortega that left me with the impression that he had gone to the dark side. And everybody was terrified, and he was a dictator. And from what you're saying, it's quite clear that this was all made up out of nothing by the State Department. And I know some people like Hector Arcizabal, who was a Colombian, is a Colombian, and was tortured as a young man, and is a therapist in theatrical modalities with people who are really suffering, massacres and stuff. And he was a proponent of getting rid of the School of the Americas, which eventually changed its name, but hasn't changed its stripes. So I just to say I have some background in understanding that there is propaganda, and it got to me. I wasn't quite. It's like out of the corner of my eye. It's like, oh well, there goes Ortega. Not true. So it's getting really bad.
Right. When you get that propaganda
here too,
when you get the propaganda, go ahead, Dan.
We also met with John Perry and his wife Abby, and they basically they were covering what happened in 2018 and the coup. Now I recorded that interview at their home, and so that is available. And I'm trying to actually write it all down because I think people need to read what it was about. So I gave part of that description to the Seattle when I was doing my report back. But the other thing that you have to see in there is that if you were driving around in Nicaragua, you would see business and tourism and everything going. You could hardly recognize that it was supposedly this country on the edge of major uprisings and poverty. It is busy. And one of the things I had asked Colleen Littlejohn's home was about, well, why do they think, how come with all the sanctions that are happening, the killer sanctions that are happening in Venezuela, which we have witnessed also, that it's not doing the same thing to Nicaragua? I mean, the thing is they have food sovereignty. They're not importing food. I might say they're probably lucky they don't have oil right now. That might have been another reason. But they talked about they have a relationship with CAFTA, NAFTA, CAFTA, and in that relationship, they still are trading with the U.S., and the U.S. is still playing fair on that level, except that that there's still the opposition that wants power and to overthrow the government. But the U.S. has not been has been more reasonable in the trade relationships that are going on right now, and they are very successful. Nicaragua is very successful. You have to understand that.
Good.
Did you have a
Thank
question,
you.
Rachel?
No question. Just wanted to mention my experience of Central America.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, the 2020, right before lockdown, I went to Guatemala and Panama, where I met so many travelers from Germany and Switzerland. Many of them were single young ladies traveling alone. And they all told me that they've been through many different nations in Central America, including Nicaragua. And to me, those areas are very dangerous because I totally brainwashed to read the information from State Department. But what they told me was completely opposite. So although I didn't go to, I was not planning to go to Panama, but since I was actually, I went to Guatemala, Costa Rica, then Panama. And I was just the 1 hour border to Panama. Everybody told me, Rachel, you should go to Panama. Go, go, go. So that was my second visit to Panama. And interestingly, those white people that I met was actually a former military man from the United States and Canada. A lot of the military people are retiring in Panama. And the local people's eyes, when they look at those white people, very, very cold. I just wanted to tell you that. Thank you.
Okay. Well, Pete, I'll just say one final thing and then we get on with our meeting here, but this is a good discussion. Peter makes a really good point. I mean, when you have that propaganda coming at you, if you see it in 3, 4, 5, 6 places, it's coming from not just the mainstream media, but some alternative media. And then suddenly you see Human Rights Watch or Amnesty International saying this, even the UN, human rights, one of the human rights bodies at the UN, coming out with these negative reports. And then you figure, well, something must be wrong, right? Uh, if it's coming from that many different directions. So you can't blame people for being affected by that. And you say that they're making it out of nothing. Well, it's not quite out of nothing, Peter, because there was an attempted coup, an attempt to overthrow the government and overthrow the revolution in 2018. So initially, the way that Daniel Ortega dealt with it was very kind of soft. He actually gave amnesty to a bunch of people who'd been involved and had originally been thrown in jail in the violence, including even people who had killed people, were given amnesty. And part of it was trying to smooth things out and not to polarize society, not to make things even worse, because it was a very difficult, confusing time even for a lot of people in Nicaragua. And but then more recently, in the last couple of years, they have cracked down on some of those people who are responsible, who collaborated with the U.S. And they've thrown them in prison. They've kicked them out of the country. They've taken their citizenship away from some of them. They've moved against some of the Catholic priests who were very involved in supporting the attempted coup. And so, you get all this that gives a lot of opportunities for propaganda. Oh, look at this! They're cracking down on freedom of religion, for example, because they cracked down on a coup supporting priest. So it's an ongoing struggle. But the proof in the pudding really is they have a revolution that's well worth defending, and that's what we found. And so and they really, by the way, were very, very pleased that the Veterans for Peace came to bear witness, and we'll continue to do that because just telling the truth about the successes there is much more effective than getting into the he said, she said about, and I'd be surprised if the government of Nicaragua hasn't made some mistakes. I'd be surprised if they haven't maybe overreached at times as they're trying to defend their revolution. It happens, but they there there's a real confidence in Nicaragua. about the progress that's being made there, and it was very encouraging. Okay, now somebody's trying to phone me. That's too bad. On with our no nukes agenda. So, okay, there's not that many of us here today, compared to oftentimes we have as many as 25 or so. Um, so why don't we just go around and everybody say a little bit about what's on their minds, and then what I have for proposed agenda after that is to talk about action ideas and how we can more systematically engage the rest of Veterans for Peace in our work rather than keeping it to ourselves. I want to say a few words also about updating the Nuclear Posture Review, um, um, about our presence at the VFP convention, and also announce I think I already did announce that Kuhan Pike is going to speak at our May meeting. So anything else people want to add to the agenda now, or just as you're taking your turn sharing, you can raise whatever you wish to raise. And I'm going to, well, start with Anthony, because Anthony's got, I know Anthony's always up to some good trouble, and he's been busy on the anti-nuclear front and other fronts as well.
Thank you. And so cut me off. There are a lot of things happening. And Peter, thank you very much for what you said about propaganda. I am going to Iran July 1st. Veteran for Peace National looks like they're going to endorse it. And one of the reasons we're going there is, we for decades have wanted regime change in Iran. We are using their nuclear facility, them making nuclear weapons, as the excuse, because we know when they get it, the first thing they're going to do is bomb where Gerry lives, maybe New York City, I'm not sure. But anyway, this is the stuff that really is coming out of our leaders' mouths. So it's really crazy. I'm very happy that there seems to be negotiations going on. There are negotiations. I've called the White House to support those negotiations. Please, no war with Iran. So that's July 1st. We're going with the contingent. It's still open. If people are interested, contact me. So but the propaganda, Peter, just like Nicaragua, I mean, the propaganda against Iran is so intense. And I've been warning everyone for about a year and a half to please, when you hear of an incident where innocent Americans are killed by Iran, please just step back and don't believe it right away, please, because that's what I think they're hoping to do. Some kind of incident that gets us all motivated to finally do it. And we know Netanyahu wants nothing more than to take out Iran. The sooner the better. So it's a dangerous situation. I'm going to move on to Pope Francis.
Before you
Yeah.
do that, Anthony, could I
Yeah.
just respond briefly to the Iran?
Yeah.
Yeah, the initial reports about the negotiations between Iran and the Trump administration have been cautiously optimistic.
Yes.
They're talking. That's
Yes.
number one. That's good. I heard the Iranian foreign minister. He was very cautious on the end of optimism. He was more cautious than optimistic, I thought. He was realistic. But there
Yes.
is some hope that
Yes.
they're going to come to a reasonable agreement that would avoid war. At the same time, as
Yes.
recently as today or yesterday, Trump says, "Well, if these talks don't go well, we're gonna go after them."
Yeah.
Uh, and
And
Israel's pushing for it. There's lots of indications that that could easily happen. So
yeah.
your delegation, it comes at an incredibly
Yeah.
important, timely moment.
Yeah.
And I applaud you for that. I'm really glad to hear what you just reported that VFP
Yes.
board is thinking of endorsing it. Would that mean it would become a VFP delegation?
Well, there are already 4 people from BFP on, and I think your wife is one of them. I think Helen, she
Yes, yeah.
signed up. So we have to get
Yeah.
approved. Their visas get approved. So, but
Mhm.
so that'd be fantastic. But Elliot Adams, Michael Jacobson, these are both Veterans for Peace people. So yeah, it's going to be a strong contingent, and we're open to having some more. We don't need a large contingent, but yeah, we hope to speak to government officials, religious
Mhm.
leaders there, as well as students at the universities, and
Mhm.
it's going to be, and as well as scientists about the nuclear program. We'll see what we can do, but I look forward to it. And thank you for your support very much.
Yeah, well, anything I can do to encourage that to be officially supported by Veterans for Peace, I'll be happy to do. It
Yeah.
sounds like have you had a discussion with Michael McPherson or anybody there? Because I
Um,
suggested that they contact you.
no, not Michael McPherson. Michael Jacobson? Is that it's a different person, right? I just
Okay.
met him. But I spoke to Susan yesterday. She said she would endorse it, but she'll
Okay,
speak
great.
to the national. But it might be really. I've asked her today if we could think about a statement from Veterans for Peace to be delivered when we're there. And we
Mm-hmm.
still have 2 months. So to think of that, but it'd be great coming from from this group in particular to
Absolutely.
have something. I'd appreciate that and help in any way. And I love that. Thank you.
Okay, great.
And
Thanks.
thank you for the additions. Yeah, I'm kind of marching on because I had a few things to say about actions. I can hold off on a couple if you'd prefer, uh,
Uh,
and
go
actions,
ahead.
and go to some other people if you wish. There are a couple of
Well,
other
we can
actions.
come to actions later, but you got
Right.
the NPT is
Okay. Okay,
review
good.
is happening next week, did you
Yeah,
say?
yeah. So here I'm going to put in. That's actions for me, but so
Okay.
I just put in the chat. This is the instead of me going on and on about it's the non-proliferation nuclear review, right? The treaty, the review. It's 2 weeks long. It's at the UN. Rachel, are you going to be down interpreting? Or will you be down interpreting for that? The NPT this next week or two? No. Okay. So I put in the chat, that is the agenda in there. You'll see most of the NGO meetings that are happening. And so you get a good idea of who's going to be there, what the meetings are about, what the seminars are about. If you want to go a little bit to the dark side, but you'll get more information, it's the Arms Control Association. Um, they also have, if you just go to their website, they have a media advisory about the NPT, but they will put out their reports and their takes about what's important going on there the next 2 weeks. So arms control people, and they probably don't mention the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, which most of this
Mhm.
group supports. But but
But are you
it's
saying there's some good information available there?
yes, Arms Control Association. Check out their media advisory. Go to NPT, yeah, 2025. Yeah, it'll be in there if you want to get their take. Um, very good. So that's what's happening. It's 2 weeks long, and maybe we can have a little review of what was important. I'm not going to attend the whole thing. It's kind of stomach turning. It's not as bad as the summit down in Washington D.C. that Harvey went to, but yeah, there should be some great stuff going on. I hope there is. And I
Okay.
wanted to get a panel with Iran during the NPT, but Iran, it's just too sensitive right now. I tried very hard to submit a panel with their reps involved, but it's so sensitive right now that
Right in
it's
the middle of negotiations and all.
yeah. So that got nixed, and that was my hope. But okay. So that's thank you, and I'll other actions that are coming up. I can speak later if there's time.
Okay. Terrific.
Yeah.
Thanks, Anthony.
Thank
Alice,
you.
go ahead, Alice.
I just put something in the chat. Jacqueline Cabasso, Western States Legal Foundation. I know her for years, and they've been monitoring the Lawrence Livermore Lab up in Northern California. But she wrote a terrific paper. I wrote her and told her about how crazy and stupid proliferation is. I mean, she really nailed it. Like, what's wrong with nuke? So I put it up to you guys because I think it's something worth seeing and thinking about, the way she attacked it.
Great.
You happen to have a link to that you could
I
find and
said I
share?
put it in the chat.
It's
Oh,
not
it's already
there,
in the
Alice.
chat.
Yeah.
So, I don't see
I
it.
just sent a chat with an attachment. That's her paper that she submitted to the MPT that she's going to give at the MPT.
I don't think
But-
you pushed the go button. on
Oh,
that.
really? All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll try again.
Thank you.
All right. That's great. Do you have anything else for us now, Alice?
Well, that's, I can't go to the MPT because I'm like, I'm a newborn invalid, but I've always been there all the time. And I have nothing else except to beg everybody that we should be promoting over and over again the opportunities that have been missed. The space ban, the cyber ban. I mean, Russia and China are begging to talk to us about that. It's ridiculous to keep worrying about no first use and back from the brink when we're not doing what we're supposed to do, which is to get off it and start negotiating with Russia and China on the things that they're willing to talk about.
Hmm.
And we're not. We're like, it started with, Reagan told Gorbachev wanted to get rid of all the nuclear weapons. And he said to Reagan, but don't do Star Wars. And Reagan said, great idea. And then he said, but don't do Star Wars. And Reagan said, I can't give up Star Wars. And that was the end of nuclear disarmament at that point, so.
Okay. I think looks like I just got an email from you. Did you email something to us, Alice?
Yeah, that's what I did. I emailed it to your list.
Okay. All right. You
Sorry,
sent it to
you all on our VFP email list?
the no-nukes group, you mean?
Yeah, no nukes.
I
That's
think
what
we all are. Yeah, we all are.
very technologically challenged.
Okay.
I'm not
Well, we
allowed
got
to
it.
say the R word.
Right.
My kids yelled at me.
Okay. Peter Barris, what do you have to share with today?
Briefly, the working group on uranium weapons, cluster munitions, and landmines has been working on letters to agencies explaining the disparity between what the agencies put out about depleted uranium and the reality, which is that they are ionizing radiation producing within 25 weeks of manufacture. And there are also a couple of international film festivals coming up, and Helen knows all about this. There's Sardinia and Hawaii. Most recently, we finally reached Hawaii through John Wilkes, and they tenderly rebuffed us, said they're too busy negotiating for not to lease the half of the island to the military again for $1 a year for 50 years.
Peter, when you say you reached Hawaii, like who in Hawaii?
Activists in Hawaii, there's a small number of activists who are native Hawaiians who are engaged directly with this negotiation. And sorry?
Pete Doctor.
Yeah, I don't know specific names.
I know him.
Okay. It's interesting that the Hawaiians regard their land as unceded, conquered land. They're an invaded and occupied domain. Other than that, we just keep slugging. Everybody in the group has specialties. Terry Lodge is very active. Michael Ketterer, we don't see much these days, but he's very much part of our outfit. And he's researching the contamination of various famous sites now that are being slated for upgrades in production of deadly nuclear materials, but not in cleanup. And they're so severely contaminated. For instance, the one in Ohio, Pikeville, is building a waste dump 2 feet above an aquifer, which will contaminate the Ohio River Valley and points west. It's just an overwhelming amount of terrible mistakes are being made and planned, and $2 trillion is budgeted for it all, and there's no cleanup going on. So this is a very much obscured by propaganda, and very successfully. Nobody wants to talk about it. But that's all I have of substance. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's a lot. Alice, did you want
Yeah.
to speak again, or you wanted
No,
to
I
address
wanted
something
to
that Peter
ask
said?
Peter if he knows about, if you're in touch with Kuhan and Ann Wright. They know a lot about Hawaii. Are they helping you at all? They're very active in Hawaii. Ann Wright is terrific. She's co-paid.
I'm in a sort of sidebar conversation online with Ann Rice that isn't very deep at the moment. Kuhan just captured my heart completely last year.
Great.
She's an angel from heaven, and I will never say anything against her.
Okay.
All right, that's great.
Yeah. Well, we
And
do
just,
have,
I want to comment on the cleanup. It's everywhere. We have like this whole network in America with the nuclear power plants, with the nuclear weapons factories, with the depleted uranium Nobody's figured out the cleanup. That's like the elephant in the room about this whole thing. They're talking now about a nuclear renaissance, and they still haven't figured out what to do with what we have now. So
This has to do with the commodification of everything. For instance, a few miles from where I live was the Yankee power plant. It was in the Deerfield River, and they removed it about 20, 30 years ago. But they transported the waste when they finally found it, which they couldn't find it for a while. They transported it out of there in the dark of night, not following protocols. So who knows exactly where it went or what they did with it. But all these things are commodities now. So Holtec is a company that buys nuclear plants and supposedly decommissions them. But now actually what they're doing is they're recommissioning them. And they're basically, they're like people that buy an old house and flip it. So they're not really assiduous about treating it respectfully from a radiation point of view. They're just taking the money they can get out of it. And that's the story all the way through, from top to bottom. The whole thing is just about, it's a feeding frenzy.
indeed. Okay, Rachel, you look frozen on my screen. Are you there and able to present to us now?
How about now? Is it still frozen?
No,
I
you're
can hear
moving.
you at least. Yeah,
Okay.
I can hear you fine. There you go.
So where can I start? There's so many things in my basket.
Well, prioritize and take 5 minutes.
All right. First of all, I'm organizing visitors from Japan for VFP National Convention. Starting from 2016, I used to go there together with veterans, but this year I reversed the direction. I invited 2 speakers from Japan, and 6 or 7, I think 5 or 6 more are coming with them. And they will present their situation hosting U.S. military bases over there. And, the entire Japanese nation is really heavily militarized right now. So please, open your eyes, ears, and pay attention to what they're going to say. And I was asked by Susan to look for a hibakusha who can come over. I found one, and he is not the part of this Japanese delegation. He is a guest speaker, one of our guest speakers, and he and his wife are coming. So I will be helping them as interpreter. But actually, this person, Mr. Cloder, he has American name. Leon Cloder is his name. And Mr. Cloder used to work in the United States, so he speaks very good English. But when it comes to Q&A, I think he needs my help.
He's
And
Hibakusha.
he's Hibakusha. He was 6 years old when he went through that Hiroshima atomic bombs. And
And is he going to speak at the convention?
yes,
The
yes,
VIP convention? Okay, that's great news.
he's 86 years old. Yeah, he's coming all the way. And well, he was very, very progressive person. As a middle school student, he already joined social movement activism, and he continued until he graduated from Tokyo University, which is equivalent to Harvard of the United States. And after the graduation, he was not able to get any job because he was so progressive. Any big corporation didn't want to hire him. So he came to the United States and got a job at a consulting firm. So he stayed 3 decades or so here. So that's why he speaks English. But what I like about him is he is not a part of Hidankyo. That's an NGO who received the Nobel Peace Award. He is not part of them. But he has such a strong vision about nuclear weapons. And I really, that his vision resonates the motto of the Veterans for Peace. So that's the convention thing. And in September, I'm supposed to help a person from Japan in San Francisco. This person's name is Akio Kuroi. He is, he's actually, what can I say? His father was a PTSD patient after coming back from China. During World War II, he was deployed twice to China. And when Mr. Kuroi had an opportunity to watch the documentary film on Alan Nelson. Alan Nelson is a former Marine who did a lot of speaking tour in Japan. Anyway, so when he saw it, first of his life, he overlapped his father's agony with Alan Nelson. Then he realized that maybe his real father's personality could have been totally different from what he knows, because he hated his father. He thought his father was too drunk and too lethargic and too violent, and he hated him. And after knowing the reality of PTSD, he changed his mind completely. Now he is an organizer of nationwide organization of the families who had veterans with PTSD. I'm talking about World War II. So his case has been featured in major newspapers, local newspapers, radio station, magazines, and some TV stations created his own documentary film as well. Then last year, he visited China because he wanted to cut the, cycle of trauma, intergenerational trauma. So he wanted to cut off that. So for that, he realized that he has to go to China and apologize to the local people, which he did. Okay. Then he realized that there's so many people to apologize in entire Asia, because where the imperial Japanese army was occupying, there's so many people. And he came to the study with the U.S. Trauma among veterans. 20 to 50% of veterans are actually suffering from trauma. Okay, let's say that here's his calculation, which is fascinating. Let's say those Japanese veterans, after came back from war, they got married, had 3 children in average. That means family of 5 already suffered with psychological trauma. So their children, which is Mr. Kuroi's case, and his children and his grandchildren, now it's in the 3rd and 4th generation of trauma. So
Rachel, I want to
anyway, so
cut
that's
you a little short there, but is he going to be, you said he's going to be in San Francisco in September?
Yes, sir. That's why he is invited by a local NGO, and he thinks this will be his first and last time to visit the United States, because he has a prostate cancer and other.
Do you know what the dates are?
He's coming. Though his date in San Francisco event is September 18th, so he will be free afterward. So if there's any West Coast VFP chapters, invite him. This is a very good opportunity. And
Okay, good to know.
right now I'm translating one of his documentary into English. So when it's done, I will show you first thing, and you can,
Okay.
if it's worth.
The, the Golden Rule is going to be in San Francisco Bay in August and into September, maybe not as far as the 18th, but we'll certainly, whether the boat's there or not, we'll make sure we connect with him. And
Maybe San Diego chapter?
does he want to go to San Diego too?
Is it far from San Francisco?
Yes, it's very far.
Very
It's like
far.
it's like 500 miles.
Okay. Well, if they can provide with the transportation, he's more than happy to visit anywhere.
Okay, well, we'll talk more about that later. I'm interested in helping.
Thank you. Thank you,
You're
Gerry.
welcome, and thanks for all your amazing work, Rachel.
I only told you two of them, but it's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, I know, sorry. Uh, Send us a written report. Um, maybe some of another opportunity when we start to talk about action here. Hollis, do you have anything to share with us today?
Oh, yeah, plenty. I'm sorry. I got almost as much as Rachel.
How come we can't see you? Oh, there you are. Okay.
Yeah, here I am. Well, anyway, I just am posting something in the chat. It was from Fumi, what's her name? Kosha. And she is organizing a march to Welpinit, where the mining took place at the Midnight Mine on the Spokane Tribe reservation. And many people have died from cancers from that. But the horror is George and I drove up there, and on the road up to there, 8 miles outside of Welpinit, is just deadly. You cannot walk that road or drive it without feeling this heavy, heavy shadow of death from all the people who mined the uranium up there, and the people who trucked it and made the bomb, and the bomb dropping on Nagasaki. It just makes you can hardly breathe on that road, and they want to walk it. And so we're trying to organize with them in Spokane to celebrate or at least commemorate the bombing of Nagasaki. But otherwise, yeah, I'll try to keep you posted on anything of that. But I've got several things. I'll just run them by as fast as I can. One is on April 5th, we had one of the largest rallies put on by Indivisible in Spokane as we have ever seen. 5,000 people in Clark Park, and that was a drone count. I counted at least 8,000, counting the street people. It didn't stop when it was supposed to at 6 o'clock or at 5 o'clock. It kept going. People on the street, they would not stop. Here in Spokane, come on. So on April 19th, there were more rallies at Mission Park, and they went back to Clark Park, and this time the Young Activist Leadership Program put on an hour-long. I couldn't hear them because I was trying to blow bubbles with a bubble pipe. But anyway, then after that, Indivisible, there was 3 rallies on the same day on the 19th. Spokane is pissed. Okay. Next thing is May Day. Latinos in Spokane is organizing a huge march, and they're going to walk from the Red Wagon in the park all the way up to the courthouse, and then they're going to take us back to the park and feed us taquitos. So that's how you do a rally. So we're in touch with Latinos in Spokane, and nothing but praise for those guys. On the Maple Street Bridge, we've been there twice with the Party for Socialism Liberation and the U.S. CPU, Communist Party. And they are young people organizing, and we've been there to support them. On Bloomsday, May 4th, there is going to be a huge rally in Cannon Park put on by the PSL guys, so it doesn't stop. People think it's going to stop. It's not stopping. Then I wanted to report to you that the Positions for Social Responsibility had a Rebuilding the Anti-Nuclear Weapons anti-nuclear weapons movement together, And we sent 6 people and 2 kids over to that. They came back, they were astonished. They even did a protest at Ground Zero, where the Trident nuclear submarines are based. And so they got to see it. These kids got to see that. And Jorge Guerrero, who Latinos in Spokane, is trying to film some of that. And he wants to go to our convention in Nevada, and he wants to film some of that and put it together for a documentary. So the next thing is the film, The Encampment showed here, and it was a full audience with participation afterwards. And now theaters are picking that up all over about the student encampments. 130 universities now have protested the Trump administration. That just came out today. Next thing was we got new members. We never had more than 17 people at a meeting. We had 24 at the last one, and we're going to have even more at the next one because new people are wanting to get involved. We're also doing a little social at an Irish pub, and we found out that's very successful to get together on a social basis once a month and just have fun being together and, talking whatever we want to talk about. And so next thing is Pride for Peace. You don't know about Pride for Peace. We're going to be involved with them. But Patrick Devine here in town in Spokane, he jumped to the front of the Pride Parade in 2018 with a upside down American flag and a baby Donald Trump in a balloon in diapers flying from it. And he protested the color guard from Fairchild Air Force Base being in the parade. He says, there's no guns in Pride. There's no guns in Pride. And he went through the whole parade in the front of that parade shouting that out. Next year, we were in the 4th position and replaced the color guard. There were no guns in Pride that year. So he wants to spread it to the National Vets for Peace. So we'll be trying to make a proposal for National Vets for Peace to include Pride for Peace. Pride for Peace. Pride and peace go together, says Patrick. And he also said, if you want to reach peace, then teach peace. That's his motto. Okay, next one is 2 more. Project 1031. Rachel, I just found my wood chips. I'm going to burn them and send them to you. Yeah, so, thanks for doing that. Next thing is Fumi Toshi. I explained to you, and I put it in the chat, a connection where you can connect with her. They're not just doing these Hiroshima pilgrimages in Spokane. They're doing them in Seattle, and they're doing them in Hanford, and they're doing them in Spokane. So that's where their focus is this year, but that's not the only thing they do year to year. And then otherwise, last thing, Hanford, they're trying to ship nuclear waste through Spokane. We're trying to protest that with our nuclear ordinance. Hiro, I can't remember his last name, from Northwestern University, was at this big conference that we had in Seattle, and he is instrumental in getting city councils with templates to make their towns nuclear weapons-free zones. So we're working with him, and we're working with our city council. So that's all I got.
That's a lot. Well, Spokane's on fire, but it's an indication of what's going on all around the country. People are mobilizing, and we need to be there with our anti-war message, with our anti-genocide message, and with our anti-nuclear weapons message. So that's a lot of opportunities for organizing right now. Hollis, could you send me a little more information about the nuclear weapons-free zone? Because I'd really like to explore the possibility of joining in and with revitalizing that campaign for nuclear weapons-free cities.
I'd be glad to. Yeah, Hiro will. I think he might be at the convention. I'm not sure, but I will send you on this list. I will send out all the information I have on our ordinance that we passed back in 2022, making Spokane a nuclear weapons-free zone. And we cannot get it implemented because the purchasing agent cannot identify the people we are doing business with and the investments that are made by our retirement fund because he's one guy. And he said the United States has hundreds of people working on this and they keep track of it all the time, but he's only one guy. He says, I can't keep up. He was supposed to be back to us by February 22nd, and he did not do that. So we're trying to work with our new mayor, who's really a good new mayor. They call her Sandinista Lista. Anyway, yeah, I've been invited to speak to the Rotary Club at some point here, and she's going to be speaking at the Rotary 21 here, and I've been invited to go see her do that. But anyway, we have a positive 5-2 ratio with our city council right now, so something can
Okay.
happen. But other cities have
Hollis,
done
I
this
gotta
already. Go ahead.
gotta move on. So we've got we're at 1 hour now. Don't want to go too much longer, but we do have some more business to discuss, and we got three people who haven't reported yet: Harvey, Dan, and Jim. If each of you could give us a few words about what you're up to, what you're thinking, and then we'll have a abbreviated discussion about action ideas that we can share with the rest of Veterans for Peace.
Go ahead, Dan. Take the lead.
Harvey? Oh, Dan, go ahead.
On mute here. Yeah, the what I just got off a Zoom meeting with the organizers for a DU film festival, which is going to be taking place in Sardinia in September. And so we're going through the planning stuff and trying to get everything locked down for the venue. Now, there's also we were trying to do this film festival also in Hawaii, but that's further out, so we'll be working on that a little bit later. But one of the main things is that we're raising that issue, and Damasio was on there, who actually had to leave because he was going somewhere to talk about his book that be published soon. And so it's inspiring to see that people are really interested in what's going on. And the whole issue with the film, the International Uranium Film Festival, is that it's not just about DU, but DU is where we're focusing on right now. And it was interesting that I got an email from this Daniel Lockwood, who is a film maker, who actually interviewed me and Harvey and a Marshall Islander to try and do a film on uranium, people that have been exposed to it. I was trying to get him part of this festival some time ago, kind of disappeared. He said he went through a lot of different things, but he just said they just finished their film and getting ready to put it out. So things just seem to be coming together all at the right time.
That's great. And by the way, Helen and I are planning to travel to Sardinia in September to coincide with that film festival. We were there in 2011, and Helen did a comprehensive report on a lot of how the island has been poisoned by bomb testing. And that report ended up in a bunch of academic journals and whatnot, and it's still circulating. And Rachel just told us she wants to translate it into Japanese, which is great. Okay, how about Harvey and Jim? What do you all have to say for yourselves? I
Go
know
ahead,
you've
Harvey.
been interviewing some interesting people on VFP Radio.
Yeah, we've had some good shows. We recommend checking them out. The last guy we had was Issa Galloway, who's someone we knew when he was in Nashville several years ago. He's a convert to Islam, and he had some good ideas on what we need to be doing to try to move the needle away from authoritarianism. He's not thinking in a revolutionary aspect of it, but just trying to get to a point where we don't let the authoritarianism become consolidated and and that much harder to dislodge. So he's got kind of a pragmatic view of things, and he was very interesting. Here in Charleston, they're having a big May Day Elbit out of South Carolina rally. Elbit Systems has a factory in Charleston County. Of course, they're Israel's leading weapons maker, and they've had a ongoing Elbit out of South Carolina effort for a while, speaking to the Charleston County Council and having weekly demonstrations out there. So I'll be attending that and maybe get some clips from that for our show. I was going to comment on this webinar, Gerry, that you were on the panel for, the Green Party Ukraine webinar. I thought your remarks were spot on and delivered in a very professional and I don't know if that's the right word, but some of the commentators were more into sort of rants. I thought you avoided that trap and really kept it fact-based and very logically presented. And especially, I appreciated your emphasis on the threat of nuclear war and the need to push for the NPTW. So I was, very appreciated your
The TPNW, right?
NP. Yeah. Anyway, and I don't know. One of the presenters I found very interesting and very frightening was the young man reporting from Germany, or I think he was from Germany, talking about Europe and how they're viewing this whole situation with Ukraine and their mentality about taking on Russia, and what a terrible risk that would pose for a nuclear outbreak. I found that very informative and enlightening, what he had to say, even though it was pretty frightening.
Yes.
Anthony, we look forward to getting dispatches from the NPT conference to share for our show coming up. And I just want to let you know my great admiration for you for undertaking this trip to Iran at a time that is certainly full of peril for terrible things to happen. And you're putting yourselves in the middle of it, you and those who will be making the trip. So I just, have so much respect and admiration for what you're doing.
As do we all. Thanks, Harvey. Jim, what do you have to add?
Real quick, we'll say thank you again to Anthony. He was on the show about a month ago. And then Harvey, what was the name of the young man that you introduced that was also at that summit?
Oh, Will Faulkner.
Will Faulkner. He did a great
We
job.
did a show with him.
Young man who's studying how to deal with
Nuclear
actions.
winter. Yeah.
Yeah. And then as far as Nashville, Veterans for Peace has been at the last two hands-off rallies trying to spread the word of Veterans for Peace, because it's mostly a crowd of Medicare, Social Security, and et cetera. And so we'll say make sure we save our VA and BDS now and hands off Gaza. And so, we're trying to spread that word through these hands off. And we even had a poster that said no to NATO. And that got really some interesting conversations stirred up with some of the variety of folks here, which was great. With regard to Japan, I checked out the consulate here in Nashville. And I said, you know what this August is? Huh? I said, it's 80 years. Come on, man. Come on, bro. Are you going to do anything to commemorate 80 years since Hiroshima and Nagasaki? And that answer is no. Yeah. So if anybody can kick the ass of the Japanese consulate here in Nashville. That would be awesome. I said, please do something. Veterans for Peace would like to be involved to help out. For Christ's sake, come on now. So,
You know, one other thing I heard, I think it was Anthony began to say
There's
something.
a C-130 going overhead at about 800 feet right here. This is
Whoa.
very unusual. There have been 2 F-35s I heard go overhead today. This is also very unusual. Sorry about that.
Where are you, Peter?
Southern Vermont.
Okay, wow.
Mm.
well, it's
Okay.
close to Canada. We're probably starting the attack. So,
I wonder, you know, I heard it sounded like Anthony was going to mention something about Pope Francis, and you know that this whole phenomenon of his death and how the media has responded by managing not to mention his constant concern for Gaza and his strong objection to all this killing of children. So I didn't know if it would be worthy of Veterans for Peace to have a brief either condolence or affirmation of the role that Pope Francis played in terms of certainly nuclear weapons is also the horrendous slaughter going on, thanks to Israel.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a good transition maybe into our action discussion here. And are you finished, Jim?
yeah, I'm finished. In fact,
Okay.
if you want, I'll just do real quick what I thought about an action when you were bringing that up, Gerry. And I'm going to actually share a screen. And can people see that? Save our VA?
Not yet. We see your name there that you're trying to share screen.
Yeah, now we see it.
Okay. That's what they do on Save Our VA. If you're not familiar with them, what they do is they have a calls to action right there, and that just jumps you down
I'm
to
not seeing anything.
this.
Are other people seeing this?
Yes, I do.
I see it.
Yeah. And
Oh, there it is. Okay.
and then they'll do letters. They'll do letters. Like, for example, I just signed this one. And the letters are to you fill in your information, and that sends a letter to your congressperson.
Mm-hmm.
And Shelley's got this set up already. And I was thinking, we could pepper our congress people with letters like this. And the only issue would be somebody'd have to put a letter together. And I know with all this talent right here, that wouldn't be too hard. So that's my idea. That is a suggestion. So on to the next idea, and I will stop sharing. If you're interested in this, it's Save Our VA, SOVA, and Veterans for Peace, and you will find it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an idea that I had. All right, next.
Yeah, well, I just think in general that we have such great meetings with so much important information shared. But we aside from the webinars that we do occasionally, we're kind of keeping this amongst ourselves and not really sharing it with the rest of Veterans for Peace in the way that we might. So now I think it's time to do that. What I'm thinking of is maybe an action VFP Nuclear Abolition Working Group action of the month that we get on into the VFP e-news and maybe on the VFP website. And it could be more than one action. I'm thinking maybe an ongoing campaign to support the TPNW. That might be supporting the warheads to windmills legislation. And then maybe other actions that could target particular weapon systems or highlight regional struggles that are related to the whole nuclear cycle. So I like what Warheads to Windmills is doing. And they, by the way, they put out a message for Earth Day. Nuclear weapons are an environmental crisis, and I have a link to that. I'm going to send this all out with the notes of today's meeting. And then Anthony, I know, participated in a recent webinar that they had on how to divest your city. That's another thing that we could potentially take on. And I see that Dr. Bob Dodge, from PSR in Los Angeles, put out his annual tax calculator. How much is your city spending on nuclear weapons, as a valuable resource that we could be using. And then of course, diffuse nuclear war is supposedly focusing on eliminating ICBMs. That's another campaign that we might consider. Although I did a little web search today and I don't see a lot happening there, but I think that's a campaign somewhere that somebody's doing. Um, and then I'm also inspired by Massachusetts Peace Action is so well organized, and they have a number of paid staff, and they have a national impact really in a number of respects. They do some really good work around Ukraine. But I was looking at their website today in terms of they have their own nuclear disarmament working group, and they have a couple points worth considering. Their initiatives include challenging federal investments in nuclear modernization, promoting diplomatic solutions to geopolitical flashpoints in countries with nuclear weapons, supporting divestment from pension funds and related investments in corporations that manufacture or maintain nuclear weapons, actively support Back from the Brink and Warhead to Windmill legislative campaigns and other legislative initiatives, both federal and state, that promote nuclear disarmament, and finally press the U.S. To sign the International Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. So that's a good array of anti-nuclear action. Somebody here mentioned earlier the possibility of targeting those corporations that profit from nuclear weapons in war. That could be a potential VIP campaign that kind of ties in with people who are targeting weapons manufacturers and companies that are profiting off of genocide, but actually targeting the nuclear profiteers, which include, interestingly, according to ICANN, Honeywell is the biggest profiteer from nuclear weapons. But according to my AI search, they don't mention Honeywell. They mention Northrop Grumman, General Dynamics, BAE Systems, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, RTX, and Leonardo. So anyway, there's lots of targets there and lots of possibilities for us to develop our own campaigns, or to support other ongoing campaigns. But the general idea is to give the VFP chapters and members updated information and opportunities to engage in action against nuclear weapons and for nuclear abolition. So that's a lot I shared there, and I have it all collected, and I'll send it to you by email as well. But what do you think, Anthony?
Please send that list. Yeah. Yeah, I think Warheads to Windmill, they have identified most of they have campaigns now developing specifically to those corps. It's not all of them, but it's great. So I like the idea of supporting Tim and his work. That's fantastic. Yeah, thank you for that. I mean, Veterans for Peace, we were with the flag. We had a couple of us who just blockaded Electric Boat in New London this past Thursday. Several people got arrested. It was nonviolent. We actually, Holy Thursday, we washed the feet. We blocked the main entrance of Electric Boat, where we make our nuclear submarines, and a number of people got arrested. The police were very nice to us. We're washing feet there, very
Whose feet did you wash?
I personally, whoever sat down across the gateway to block the, we brought chairs and everything. We brought 12 chairs for the 12 apostles. But yeah, and we just washed whoever took their shoes off. Everyone, all 12. Took our time until the police came. They kind of let us finish the washing the feet. We had a great sign about nuclear weapons and stop engineering the end of the world. You know, Jesus said, love one another. Stop engine. That was a 35-foot long banner. Stop engineering the end of the world. So with that the Veterans for Peace were in there with that action. I just want to mention nuclear free zones, Gerry. Check your town or your city. It was the 1980s that became really popular. So I had to dig for New York City's nuclear free zone legislation in boxes in a college. They're not in our computers. So when you go to the archives for your city, try to get to the 1980s, and you'll find maybe already the city council has already passed nuclear. That makes things a lot easier. So all you have to do is reaffirm your city being a nuclear free zone. Makes it a little easier process and talking point to your city councils. So I recommend doing some of that research. And if Harvey, thank you. Yeah, the Pope, as Alice wrote, he was really key for the TPNW right from the start. His first month when he came in as Pope, 2013, he made very clear statements about nuclear weapons and militarism. He made it very clear from the start. He's been silenced and whitewashed a lot by us. And we do plan tomorrow. There's a big at St. Patrick's Cathedral. A couple of us are going to go to his memorial mass, which is happening tomorrow at noon. We will have signs with his actual words, because his last talk to the people on the day he died, the night before he died, was about Gaza and the killing of children and how that can't be tolerated. So we're going to have that out for the people to see, because we don't report it. You can't find it in our media. Is the wording of his talk. It gets taken out. It's very strong, amazing, brave language. So we'll have, and I'm going to try to look for a banner tonight. I'm on my way over to Mary House. For some of his words on nuclear weapons, we had banners of him talking about nuclear weapons being immoral and illegal, and we're going to get a banner there. So that's tomorrow. For anyone who has a memorial service in their area, you can certainly bring a banner with him, some of his words. He was a great advocate. We're going to miss him greatly. That's
Okay.
well, no, we have, sorry, one more thing. Vietnam, the 50th anniversary is this Wednesday. So in New York, I don't know what you're all doing, but we have, I know, Veterans for Peace going to Vietnam. They're there, I think, already or soon. But in New York City, we have a Vietnam memorial, and we're going there. The New Jersey and New York Veterans for Peace will be there Wednesday. We'll playing some music and giving some talks and honoring, and yes, I know. Maybe I'll bring a banner about nuclear weapons there. We certainly have a couple of great ones. Veterans for Peace. So that's another event for us. Veterans for Peace, the 30th, Wednesday, to do an action. Yeah. But you're right, we're not all connected. That the person who did the electric boat action, that was Frida Berrigan. And so we joined her in that action. So that was, we got to keep, when we see something, join it. And I just went up as an individual, but I had my veteran for peace, flag. So, and you're
Well,
right
as far
about
as
Massachusetts. They're well organized and well decently funded. Yeah.
as far as getting started in putting out some proposed actions to our members, I like Jim's suggestion of a letter that could be put together and kind of make it easy for people to send message to their congressperson. And I would suggest that what that message should be, in general, abolition of nuclear weapons, and more specifically, to support the warheads to windmills legislation, also known as the Eleanor Holmes Norton bill, and it's got another name, um, and that would be a start, and then that could be something kind of ongoing. But then we can add to it a rotating kind of monthly action that might address some other part of the nuclear spectrum. I don't know if there's any specific suggestions for what we could ask people to do this month beyond, or first of all, do people agree we should ask VFP members to support this legislation and to make it easy for them to contact their congresspeople? I assume we all agree with that. But are there any other specific suggestions for something we might add on to a proposed action for this week? Alice and then Rachel for this month. Yeah. Alice, are you frozen?
I don't know if it's this week, but I hope we can add in what I'm becoming like an old nag, but that we can change the conversation and tell who we're writing to that if we really are serious about ending nuclear horror, the U.S. has to get serious about taking up offers on the table to ban weapons in space and ban cyber war that China and Russia have been begging us for. Nobody really knows this except Gerry Condon and me, I think, and I think we have to get that I think it'll make a difference if people know that there's something you can do that might move Russia and China, because what we're getting is that you can't do anything about them, so we have to build more weapons.
Right.
And I don't know. Maybe we could try one letter like that.
Right. Well, one of the things that's unique about the Veterans for Peace Nuclear Abolition Group, in my opinion, is that we tie the abolition of nuclear weapons to current events, which is to say current wars and threats of war. If we don't end the war in Ukraine, if we don't end the Middle East wars, if we don't stop a war against Iran, then we're not going to be able to stop nuclear weapons. In fact, we'll be heading right towards a nuclear war. For some reason, most anti-nuclear groups are reluctant to say more about U.S. intervention and how that creates the growing danger of nuclear war. Anyway, that's my spiel. Rachel, sorry to hold you up there.
I just want to say two things about what we can do. One thing is we can organize film viewing session of the Vietnam War film that the Veterans for Peace made a few years ago about Vietnam War, which is wonderful. That was actually meant to be for high school students and teachers, but actually that's for everybody to watch, which is wonderful. And second thing is was it yesterday or the day before yesterday, Dennis Kushnich wrote an amazing article. I translated into Japanese because this particular piece talks about how toxic materials from weapons, not only nuclear weapons, but for any kind of weapons, scattered from the Gaza, actually coming back to Israel. Okay, Israel killed Gaza. They are inhaling Gaza, right? So I translate into Japanese, trying in the hope that they can realize whatever happens to China, it will come to Japan. It will cover entire Japanese nations. They're going to inhale it. So Taiwan contingency is not their choice. That's what I meant to. That's what I hoped for them to understand from that particular article. But that article is really, really superb to realize people what's the ramifications of those weapons that stays in the environment, stays in inside of a body and decays everything. So I think spreading that article is really meant to a lot from just anybody on the earth.
Great. Could you send me the link to that article so we can include it in the notes? And which reminds me, we haven't really had a note taker here necessarily. We are recording the meeting.
Do
I'll
that.
I'll try to put together a decent summary of what we've been discussing, but
Okay.
I might miss some things. But Jim
I've
will
been
have a
taking some
recording.
notes out of habit. I'll send them to you.
Oh, thanks so much, Peter.
They're rough,
That's-
but I
That's
got
great.
most of it.
Okay, well, I think we covered a lot of ground, and we're approaching an hour and a half, and that's long enough. But this was a great discussion, as always. And we'll start moving things forward with making sure that we have kind of a monthly action item or two for our members. And thanks for that. That's in the chat now, Rachel? Or is that
Yes, it got it.
by email? Okay.
It's in the chat.
So perhaps we haven't, I don't want to cut people off. If there's some other ideas or suggestions or final comments here, particularly in terms of action you'd like to see VIP members taking, let's hear it. But then we'll close.
Dan,
I should have mentioned too that I'm working with Physicians for Social Responsibility here in Oregon as we're organizing for August for the Hiroshima and Nagasaki events that we hold annually. And so that's something that I'm on the planning committee. We lost one of our members who was pretty much involved, and that was Malcolm Chaddick. And he just recently passed away. So, and then we had another member, not a member of our organization, but another activist who just passed away also, who was very much a part of that. Yeah, the planning is going on and we have some new people on it. So that's going to be something. I just yesterday was in a War Resisters League had invited a number of veterans and some of their members to Cleveland High School. So we were speaking to a number of students they had a number of different tables, and we go from one table to the next and either tell our stories and stuff. But basically, I wanted to ask the students what was their primary concern about what's going on. Sometimes it's best to ask people and listen to what their concern is rather than lecture them. So when I went to the first table, I asked them what was their concern, and they said immigration. Of course, we can talk about Veterans for Peace and how we're fighting back against immigration and bring those things to the forefront. And then the next table I went to, the primary concern for them was Gaza. Both of those can happen. And then to be able to tell our story and then to introduce anything else like the environment and hand out literature to them. So the more literature that we have, try to get into the high schools and talk to people. I think that's the next generation is the ones that are going to be doing this fight.
Well, that's a good point, Dan. In this current environment where there's so many urgent issues and a lot of people in motion and a lot of people talking to one another, how do we make sure that the growing danger of nuclear war and the importance of abolishing nuclear weapons is part of that conversation? So I think maybe that's your homework between now and the next meeting, to come up with some ways that we can integrate these anti-nuclear concerns into the overall conversation and the growing movement for peace and justice and against authoritarianism, etc. And as I said, the next meeting actually is going to be a pretty full meeting because Kuhan's going to be speaking. And usually when we have a speaker at our meetings, well, they speak for a half hour, and then we end up having a lively discussion for another half hour. So that leaves us a little less time for for strategizing and whatnot. But I'm sure that'll be a really useful meeting. And yeah, I'm glad to hear that I know there's some. I watched the recording of our last meeting today, and I saw some people were concerned about our presence at the VFP convention. Well, now we know there's going to be Habakdusha present. I think Ellen Barfield's also been pushing for an indigenous spokesperson from that area, which has certainly been impacted by nuclear weapons testing, to be a speaker. And I think we should plan on having a table there for the Nuclear Abolition Working Group with as much materials and action ideas as possible. But so we have plenty of good work to do. You want to have a final word, or are you saying goodbye, Rachel?
Well, since people from Japan has a allocated time frame on the last day, please feel free to bring your materials to that place, right? Because we're all related issues.
Which place?
The very last day of the convention.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I asked the DU group people to work to help us as MCs, so they can incorporate their information as they are introducing people from Japan. So this.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Okay, everybody. Thanks you all for being here. It's a great meeting. Anthony, you got to run off to Mary House now. Say hi to everybody for us. Keep up all the good work. And we'll see you 4 weeks from now on the fourth Friday of May, which I believe is the 23rd of May. And in the meantime, we'll be sharing this recording and notes and action ideas with not just amongst our own group, but also with the entire VFP membership.